Good morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with a daily technical update. It is Thursday the 27th of July. It is the day after the rate decision in USA. And it didn't really move the market much. S&P 500 spiked a little bit higher once again, but it closed lower. And what is interesting, it still closed below the peak of this top and reversal pattern here, which is the doji evening-like pattern. It needs to close above that. It needs to close above 45.79 before we actually have that cancel. So still it's in play. What is interesting, it could happen today. Market is up, pre-market we are up about 0.6%. What is also interesting is that at least on the CAC index, the S&P 500 CAC index, there is divergence on the RSI. So it's not really, despite higher closing, it's not really confirming the uptrend. And if I add the volume also, you can see that the volume is not really picking up much. It was still higher here last week. So that's really something to keep in mind when we look at that. However, let's have a look at the US 500 CFD slash future, which is actually moving higher. So we are set for higher open, and we are also potential a higher close, and thereby cancelling the top and reversal pattern. And that can be at least some part due to a meta, which we're going to have a look at a little bit later. Nasdaq 100 testing the lower rising trend line here once again. Not really so convincing, but again, it is in an uptrend. It hasn't broken below, and maybe it won't today. Here we have the US NAS 100. That's the CFD and slash the future, and you can see we have this top formation here, top and reversal in place, bouncing off the lower rising trend line here. So maybe we will try to move higher, but it's not really convincing just yet. So let's see. We still have RSI divergence down there. If we look at the equities that moved the market yesterday, we have the Microsoft that came out with numbers Tuesday, closed just around the lower rising trend line here, touching the cloud and a few cents of the 55 moving average. A close below 328. We are in a downtrend. We had Alphabet that was actually quite bullish yesterday, gapping higher. As you see here also on the weekly chart, there should be room up to 143 level. 138 is the 1618 projection, but there's no strong resistance until around 143, 144, meaning it can actually support the market. However, Meta out after market with earnings, and it is trading 6-7% up pre-market here, around 318, 319, testing previous peak, the peak here from last week. So it's back above this very short-term rising trend line, and the RSI is possibly also back above the falling trend line here. I'm not so sure about that. There's still massive divergence, but so it's going to be interesting. Will it actually close higher, or will it falter at the end? In Europe, interesting development on the European equities market. Now we have DAX trading. It seems now it means business trading above the 16,210 resistance and actually moving quite a bit higher. If we get a close above, and if we get RSI back above 60, well, then there's more in store for DAX index, potentially up to 16,600, 700 level. On the AEX25 index, also seems to mean business, breaking above 781 on its way to 800, 882, 802. Around that level there we have some strong resistance. So if it can stay above doing all the way to the end of the session today, well, then there's more upside in store for AEX. Also, Belgium market, excuse me, Belgium market. in a strong uptrend, minor correction yesterday, but 38.63, possibly up to 39.50 level here in the next couple of weeks. CAC40 trying once again the 74.04 level. That's going to be interesting. Can we get back above? Can we get 60 above 60 on the RSI here? If we can, well, then there's more in CAC40 up to around 7600. On the FX front, interesting development this morning where euro dollar really took off. It has bounced just above the 110, which is the 618 retracement, and it seems like now it's resuming uptrend. And if it does, well, then there's not really much stopping it until around 114.80 level. Around that, of course, there will be some resistance at the peak here a couple of weeks ago, around 112.75, but that should not be that strong a resistance. We are in an uptrend, and there's no RSI divergence, meaning we are likely to trade higher. Also, the dollar index rejected at the 21 moving average, and the 50% retracement seems to be resuming downtrend with potential down to 98, 97 level. Dollar yen, I think we will see it trading sideways here the next couple of days, possibly going into next week. It needs to break above the 142 or the below the 137.5, and I think the break will be to the upside, but the jury is still out. But it seems like we will be a little bit of range bound here for quite some time. On cable, also resuming uptrend after 128 retracement to the 61.8 retracement at 128, resuming uptrend, and if it breaks above the peak last week at 131.40, then there's not really much stopping it cable until around 137.5. On the commodities, we have gold that seems to has corrected what it should. It was only 38.2 correction, so why don't we just remove that one? And it seems like we are moving higher here. If we get above the cloud, we will possibly break the 2000 level, and I think we will also see it at 2040, 50, potentially moving back to previous peaks. It won't be a slam dunk or a straight line, but I think we are we are back in uptrend. Same picture on the silver, very close to take out last week's peaks, which I believe will happen. We can see all the moving averages also pointing higher. On the copper, that's not really, it's still struggling a little bit, but we are in an uptrend, so I think it's only a matter of time before it will have another go at the 400 level. Oil has been on the move. Here is Brent oil. It's above the resistance at 83, hovering a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little dip down to test the 200 moving average from the upper side before next move high towards 87, 88. Same picture on the WTI, really also hovering around this resistance at 79.20. A little dip down to test the 200. It's not unlikely, but we are in an uptrend, and it looks fairly strong at the moment. So I would expect it to. Oh, sorry about that. I would expect it to move higher in coming weeks. On the agricultural side, we have wheat. I did publish a analysis yesterday on wheat, soybeans and corn, and it's worth to note that wheat, it spiked higher, but it couldn't really close above, and I think we will have another go in the next couple of days. Seems like this 200 moving average here on the wheat December contract is really a key area around that 750. If we have RSI breaking above 60, then I think we will have a move to 820, possibly higher. Soybeans, very quickly, we have trying to tick higher, and I think we will see a test of the 1448 resistance. but it is stretched a little bit. It is stretched a little bit. We should see a little bit of correction before next move higher. And finally, on corn, struggling. I think we'll see corn being sideways, range bound here between 575 and 530 here the next couple of weeks. We need a break from these levels here, and I believe we will see a break to the upside, but the jury's still out on it. Finally, after the Fed announcement yesterday, there wasn't really much moving in the interest rates market here. We have the US 10-year Treasury yields dipped a little bit lower, opened a little bit lower today, but we are in an uptrend. And if we get the 60 threshold broken with a close above on the RSI, well, then there should be more upside in the cards for US 10-year yields above 4%. All right, that was a long one, and we'll talk again tomorrow with more news on the market. Thank you very much.